Hello, and welcome to the Godless Bitches podcast. I'm your host, Beth Presswood, here with Jen Peeples.
Hi, everybody.
Tracie Harris.
Howdy.
And special guest, Lorena Rios.
Hello.
Godless Bitches is sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational group dedicated to the separation of church and state and the promotion of positive atheist culture. You can contact us at bitches@atheist-community.org and comment on shows at godlessbitches.podbean.com. So, how is everybody today?
Doing good.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I happen to be in Pennsylvania. We are attending a Richard Dawkins event here where he was awarded some prize for evolutionary biology, I believe. I was at the table, so I'm not completely, I wasn't paying 100% attention to the presentation.
All right. Well, Dawkins is good. So we're talking to our special guest, Lorena Rios from Hispanic American Freethinkers organization today, and we'll just be talking about Hispanic American Freethinkers. So, Lorena, what's the mission? Why is there a need for a special Hispanic-focused group?
Well, I think the HAFRE's mission is to educate the Latino community and move them forward based on reason and science. There is a huge need because I think the best example to illustrate this is that, just by the mere numbers, the Hispanic population is going to be huge in the next 10, 20 years. So, if let's say that any of us get sick in the future and we want to make sure that we have a nurse taking care of us, not a palm reader or an astrologist, which is something very common right now. We have noticed that women in the Latino community are, not all of them, but there is a huge number. And please, Latino women, don't kill me. I'm not trying to generalize or say that we are all like this or all like that. I'm just saying that there are huge numbers pointing to the fact that women are still lagging far, far behind men when it comes to education, working outside the house, and having their own careers.
All right. So Hispanic American Freethinkers, I got introduced to the organization when I attended the North Texas Secular Conference just a few weeks ago, where I met Lorena and David Tamayo. Now, he's the president and you're the vice president. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And your website is HAFREE.org. And there's a lot of good resources there. Everyone should go. And, he talked about a lot of these challenges. When I think of, the Hispanic community, Latino community, there's different terminology that people like to use. I think religion. And that's a big thing.
Yeah, religion is another huge subject that is very prevalent in the Latino community, and it's not so much that Latinos are abandoning religion, they're just jumping from religion A to religion B. And that's a huge issue. There are some weird, or not weird, but there are some very interesting numbers that you probably remember from David's presentation, which, they show that Latinos are more accepting that same-sex marriage than other communities, but then again, they have this religiosity as part of their culture, and I think if we go and read the history and the origins of where Latinos come from, or how is it that we became Latinos, we are tied to Spain, and we were conquered by people that were sent by the Queen of Spain, and she was Catholic. So I think that's how religion got so embedded, because one of the things one of the things that these conquistadores did when they got to Latin America or South America and Central America, they kind of evangelized. That was a very strong activity that they performed while they were conquering everybody and all the cities and all the places. So I think that's where the origin of the religiosity for Latinos come from, or is a big component at least.
I mean, yeah, it seems like, it was just for survival. I mean, I remember going on tours of missions, around San Antonio. And basically, the indigenous people would go into the mission just to survive, just to not be killed. And yeah.
Yeah, that's what it makes it so difficult to kind of separate, because it's kind of, we dare to say it's part of the DNA of most Latinos. So it's going to be a very long road to get them to even consider that living without religion is as good as living with a religion, or instead of jumping from religion A to religion B, perhaps they should explore the option which would be no religion. And that's where Half-Free, comes in. What we are doing, we're trying to educate the younger generation and teach them to think critically, not just take everything because that's the way it is. We want them to ask the right questions. We want them to question everything, and perhaps when people get more used to questioning things, it becomes as default that you start questioning religion, and you end up, most of the people that start questioning religion, they leave religion. So that's one of our biggest goal. I don't think I'm going to see it in my lifetime, but I'm going to work as hard as I can, just like everybody else from Half-Free Will, to at least get one person at a time, because this is like taking baby steps. One step forward, 20 steps backwards. But, there is hope. There is a lot of Hispanics that are that don't believe in religion or don't want to be religious, but they are terrified by losing the contact with their families. They don't want to be ostracized. So that makes it difficult. So even though they might not believe, you would never know, because they don't come out and tell you. They don't participate in activities. And if you ask them, they will tell you, well, yeah, I am religious, even though they have never been to a church, and perhaps they don't even know what religion they belong to.
Yeah, actually, Lorena, I was going to ask you about that, the whole family connection thing, because it's my perception, living in Texas and seeing a lot of Hispanic families, that most Hispanic people are very close to their families, and it seems that from the email that we get, that doing something that would cause family members to shun you or even outright, reject you, that would be kind of a big hurdle. Do you find that that's the case in the Hispanic community? And if so, how do we get them, to come out, at least among those of us fellow heathens?
Yeah, I think that is true, but I also think that idea gets abused a lot, and it gets used as an excuse, because if I were a lesbian and if I come out as a lesbian, my family most likely, I'm not saying that they will not, but most likely they will accept me, because if the family ties are so strong, they should accept you the way you are. So if you tell them, I don't believe in religion, and they don't even make the attempt of coming out, is because that in itself is used as an excuse not to, for apathy, or just, it's too much work, or, who cares, and etc., that kind of things. But, that's what I think. What can be done is teach young people to think critically, and that it's okay that you don't think like your parents, that you're not a clone of your parents, and that you are entitled to believe perhaps in something different, or go to different places and participate in different activities, and that doesn't mean that you don't love them and that you are not part of that family.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's interesting. I was in Mexico a few years ago teaching a class at a university down there, and I met one of the students in my class who was very open about his atheism, and almost everyone else around was very open about their belief in some flavor of Christianity. And I thought that was interesting that, there's this one kid, and he's something of a rebel. You could tell just from how he talked about other things that he was the kind of kid that probably rebelled against parental authority early on. But he's an engineering student, and he's obviously learning to think for himself. And he was open about his atheism. So I think there's some hope because, you have in the middle of Mexico, it's, deeply religious communities there. And here's a kid who's very open about it. And we do get email from people, Hispanics from Mexico, from different parts of the country. And they talk about, the role that religion plays in their community. But they're also, telling us, hey, I'm an atheist. So is it your perception that there's a lot more atheists sort of in the closet in Hispanic communities than people realize?
I think there's more secular people than appears to be now. I don't know if they go as far to accept that they're atheist, but I think atheism or lack of religion in Latin America or in the Latino community, whether that be in the United States or outside the United States, is directly related to the level of education and to the, I would dare to say, income level. The more educated the person, and I think that's true for everybody, but I think it's even more marked in the Latino communities where, the higher the social class, the likelier that you are to encounter people that are atheists and that are open atheists. And it just is not across groups, it's across countries. If you, when you talk about Latinos, one of the biggest problems that I have, and I think everybody else has, but a lot of the time is overlooked, you are talking about a mixture of things, a mixture of people, a mixture of cultures, a mixture of everything. So, I try to walk that fine line with a lot of care because not that I don't want to offend. I mean, they can get offended all they want to, but I just don't want to label them this versus that. If you're looking at the culture of Mexico versus the culture of Argentina, you are looking at vinegar and oil, and the common denominator is the language. And then when you have those immigrants come over here, the Argentinians get assimilated overnight. The Mexicans, you have 3 generations after the first one came, and they're still talking that they're still saying that they're Mexicans. So it's a very nobody likes to hear this, but it's my personal opinion, and I'm not talking on behalf of anybody here, that the Latino community is a broken community because everybody pulls their own way, and they invoke their countries of origins at all time. Now, I personally oppose that very much. I believe, and my belief is that I'm a U.S. Hispanic, and that's where it ends. And, I try to, like I said, I try to work that delicate line, trying to include everybody and avoiding the exclusion, but it's very difficult. And I think if every Hispanic in the United States came together as a Hispanic instead of broken down in subcultures, then the sweeping of religion could be done faster and more effectively as well.
Yeah, that's a big point that was also brought up by Matt, my husband, in the Q&A during that talk. there's a Mexican market in San Antonio where they sell a shirt that people wear that says, "I am not Hispanic, I am not Latino, I am Mexican." And and it, I was just, sort of confused by that. And I was like, well, okay, people can, be whatever they want. But I can definitely see how, divisions can sort of break apart this group that, could do so many more things if, they all got together.
And it's the perfect outcome for people that want to see the Latino community like that, because, you conquer by division. That's the most effective and the best way to get these gazillion, millions, quadrillion people do nothing and become nothing. But, I don't blame it on everyone else. I think we bear a huge part of this responsibility. And let me tell you, I try to walk that delicate line, but I do feel I get annoyed by things like, I'm not Latino, I'm not Hispanic, I'm Mexican, or, in your house, you can be, I don't care what you are, but I think when you're outside, you should try to unite so you can progress, because numbers make the difference. So there is so many fronts where the Latino community needs to change their ways, and so they can move forward. And I think religion is definitely one of them. And the other one is country of origin. With religion it's very difficult to talk to a Pentecostal, even though we speak Spanish, but I think it's more difficult than when you talk to a Pentecostal and you speak English, because they are like a separate country, themselves. So,
yeah, that's been one of the most eye-opening things that I've learned about Hispanics in general, is that Pentecostals have done so much evangelizing among Hispanics, and there's an astonishing number of Pentecostals out there who are Hispanic. And, we typically think of, when you think Hispanic, you think, well, they must be Catholic, and that's just not true.
That's exactly right. And you know what? They've been so effective in evangelizing the Latino community that, it used to be that the Mormons were very effective, but they were very effective for one very simple reason: green cards. If you became a brother or a sister, in hopes perhaps you could come here to the United States and train, you could stay here. But the Pentecostals don't offer you anything except chanting, screaming, and jumping. And they're still, sweeping the nation. So it's a very strange phenomena. But also, I think, I don't know if the numbers have been broken down by Central versus South America and by countries in the United States, but I think the Pentecostal community is strongly based in countries from Central America that they have moved to the United States. I don't think the numbers are so prevalent within people with ancestry in South America. But regardless, how do we stop it over here? And I think those families, the Pentecostal families, they're so hardcore that those are the kids that really need to be educated, and they need to be taught how to think critically. And I think education is the tool to do so, because these communities, this religion is so stubborn and is so strong that you can't march in and just tell them that they are completely wrong. You really have to go to the younger generation and show them that there is an option, there is something else out there than the way they do things. I mean, this is unbelievable, the way they dress differently, the ideas they have, even though not all of them practice those ideas, is just unbelievable. I mean, I just attended a wedding of a Pentecostal woman. I told David, let's get there like 2 hours after the fact, and they were still jumping and screaming 2 hours after I got there. And I'm going like, oh, golly, and this is what I need. I mean, she's a good friend, but I'm not going to go and jump and scream with her just because she's a friend. So, but you have to educate the younger generation. I don't think you are going to change them at 40 or 50 or 60, but you can do a better job at educating them if you start early. And that's what we're trying to do.
So, and that's actually a very good point, because even, at least if they're Catholic, if they go to a Catholic school, they're going to get all of the religious nonsense, but they'll probably get a very good education on top of that. So, at least they'll learn some reality about the world. Pentecostals, I mean, they're not only not going to get a very good education unless by some, miracle they end up in the public school system or something that's pretty good. But, they're going to have all this other crazy stuff. And the beliefs are just so much crazier than even Catholicism.
Yeah, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I just don't respect Catholicism. I think it's just, those are the best atheists. I went to a Catholic school all my life, and, they could never brainwash me. I mean, since day one, I think I've been pretty much, decided that it wasn't for me, but I just stayed there because it was one of the better schools in the town that I lived. But, I think Catholics make the best atheists around there, because they don't know anything about what they do, why they do it, when they do it, or whatever. They like to have sex without getting married, even though they are not supposed to. They are not supposed to take contraceptive, but they do. Now you see most Catholics, not all of them, but most Catholics don't have 9, 10, 20 children. They have one. So you're wondering, well, is God stopping them from having children? No, they're doing something.
No, and that's funny, because when I was growing up, I spent about 7 years in Louisiana. And it was kind of funny because there's an awful lot of Catholics in Louisiana. And every Catholic girl I knew, by the time she was 15 or 16, she was on birth control pills to regulate her period. It wasn't because she was having sex. She needed those pills to regulate her period. And
I'm just too familiar with that. That's what I think is so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, wow, there's like an outbreak of menstrual irregularity among these Catholic girls. It's just amazing. Crackers could do that to you.
So, Lorena, you brought up something a little bit ago that I thought was really important, that a lot of these Hispanic people that just don't believe still won't go as far to call themselves atheist. Also, notice Halfree is Hispanic American Freethinkers. So I'm wondering, do you think that you can get further in the Hispanic community if you don't use the A word?
Yes and no. I think there are many Hispanics, or the ones that are out, that don't have any issue with the A word. But when we start going into schools with younger kids, with families, we definitely go for the education word more than for the atheist word. At this point, I personally feel that we need to do whatever works until we get the numbers that support themselves, the fact that we're atheists. I don't have a problem being called an atheist, and I think many of the people that I know don't have a problem. But I also, when I went to Texas, I was shocked to see so few Hispanics. I mean, we're talking about Texas. We're not talking about Alaska. So I thought, my goodness, we really have a lot of work to do here if we don't even have Texans coming out and saying that they are at least agnostic. But, I'm up for the challenge. I think Halfree's up for the challenge. And I think it is one person at a time. This is like pulling teeth, but you know what? It needs to be done, and somebody has to do it. And at this point, Halfree has taken that role, and we will work as hard as we can to change things. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be fast, unless we have some sort of quote unquote miracle in the middle that people decide to say, you know what, I'm fed up. I don't want to be called a religious person anymore. I'm just an atheist, or I just don't believe in religion. If that happens, perhaps we can get numbers to reflect that. But right now, it's one person at a time. And even when I was at the convention in Texas, I met these people, and they made it a point. And I do understand that, because I'm a broker. I'm a real estate broker, and I don't have a problem being called an atheist by other atheists, and in the atheist community, I don't have a problem. And then if somebody asks me, I don't deny it, but I don't go, hi, my name is Lorena, I'm an atheist. Now, do you want me to sell your house? Because I want to tell you, no, I'll just buy from somebody that is in good terms with God. So you have to be very careful when your beliefs infringe in your economic situation. So we're very careful about that. And I met this, as an example, I met this woman at the Texas convention, and she's an MD. And she's not out because they figure that if she's an atheist, she's probably going to kill all the babies, because atheists kill people, they drink blood, who knows what is it that atheists do. So she keeps it very quiet, but she's very firm in her beliefs. But it's just in her case, she's not comfortable, and I guess in many other people's cases, they are not there either. But again, it's one step at a time. And I think it's like when gays start coming out, not everybody was up to say, well, I'm gay, or I'm a lesbian, I'm this and that. It's been a process, and it's taking some activism, it's taking a lot of work, and it's taking other gays and lesbians to say that they are gay and lesbian. So, to promote the movement and to move people to accept them.
Yeah. The thing about Texas is a huge thing to me. I've been to all these atheist events in Texas, the North Texas Secular, Texas Free Thought Convention. And I barely see anybody that looks Hispanic. I mean, I know, everybody can look like anything, but there's nobody that's, got Hispanic name. It just seems to be all white people as far as the eye can see. When I know that, in some of these places, majorities are Hispanic, if not, pluralities. And it's just, is there anything we can do to try to get more Hispanic people to come?
I think one of the things that can be done is to offer small groups, to try to create these small groups, not big groups, but start with small groups, and then you can merge them. Once you get the numbers, once you get people to come in, you can merge those different groups. But I think everybody has opportunity. Like, if you have a strong presence in Texas, create a subgroup that is called something Hispanic, or, we are trying to do that. We are working with some people to have these groups there to, at this point, work in a more informal way. But eventually, if we get people to participate and their conviction is there, is open, and they're open to the fact that they are willing to come out to the world, then we can start merging groups, and we can letting them be more independent. But I think one of the things right now that we need to do, we need to provide support. There is not enough support for these Hispanics to be out there, because they are the ones that tell you that they are atheists. They are 1 in 100. Now, all the other 20 or 30 that perhaps are but don't say anything, they don't have a place to go. They don't know of anything. And a lot of the time when we're forming these groups, the first thing that we get, we're so happy that, you have a group here, because at least you have the language in common there. And once you get to the United States, and here the melting pot of the Hispanics is even bigger and better than in Latin America, because here even though many of them are still saying, I come from this and that country, there are many people like me that I'm going like, I don't care what country you come from. That's irrelevant. You are a Hispanic and you are a U.S. Hispanic, and I can sit at a table, I can speak to a Mexican, and I feel as comfortable if I'm talking to a Puerto Rican. But that takes some understanding as well within the Hispanic community. That's not something that is going to come from outside. That's something that has to come from within, and we have to be more acceptant of the other countries. If you were in the Hispanic community, you know immediately who comes from what country, because the jokes come back and forth, and they kind of put down the one that has a history of being the small kid in the block. So, we need to take care of that, and then we need to concentrate on Hispanics and then provide the support for the Hispanics over here. And there is going to be, I don't think once we achieve that, I don't think it's going to be by country of origin, but it's going to be by state, because the Hispanic from Texas, it is absolutely different than the Hispanic from Washington, D.C. But I think that's true for any population of the United States. So, you tweak things a little bit, but at this point, I think to start, we need to create these small groups, and we need to be able to support them. And I'm not talking about financially, I'm talking about just let them know that they are not the only ones, that they are not the first ones, that there is already a lot of people. There is an organization like HAFRI that is working on behalf of atheists, agnostic, or secular, or whatever they want to be, they want to call themselves.
How big an issue are language barriers, socioeconomic issues, and immigration issues for Hispanics to be in the secular community?
I think in the last 5 years, I think the immigration issues are huge because, I don't know in Texas, but in Washington, D.C., we've had immigration go to several employment locations and just gather people and ship them to their countries, or actually leave them in jail until they get shipped to their countries. So that's what that did, that scared people. So if they are scared for their immigration status, how are they going to come out and tell you they're atheist? That's probably the last thing in their minds. They are concerned about not being, caught by immigration and shipped back to their countries or put in jail. So they just don't join anything. They don't say anything. And when you talk to them, all they do is they give you a look and they smile. And then the socioeconomic status, I think also it's, I think the lower the income, the more religiosity, because religions those are the peoples that they want because they're easier to control. If you evangelize them, you can control more people with religion. And the easier, the best way to control them is to go to the lower income people. So I think income and immigration status is big. I don't think the language barrier is so bad because there are so many Hispanics that you are bound to find somebody that speaks the language somewhere, and most likely you are going to find somebody that speaks the language and is not religious somewhere. So I don't think the language is such an important factor, in the sense that it's not that they cannot find other people that speak Spanish. It is an issue in the sense that if they don't speak the language, if they don't speak English, they can mainstream themselves and they miss on a lot of opportunities that will allow them to be more free thinkers. So in that sense, I think it affects the community.
And HAFRI has a Spanish language podcast, correct?
Yes, they do. The guys, I'm kind of the person that that I try to do past with with women, but the guys try to do their podcast in Spanish, and it's one of the few Hispanic podcasts for Hispanics. It's not for Puerto Ricans, it's not for Bolivians, it's not for Colombians, it's for Hispanics. So, for a while there, they had a guy from Chile, or with their family from Chile, ancestry from Colombia and from Bolivia. And it's a very good mixture, because they show that it is possible for all these people with different backgrounds to work together for a common cause, such as, secularism and agnosticism and atheism.
Yeah, sounds great. I might have to listen and see what I can get from it. My Spanish is rudimentary at best.
Uh-huh.
So, Tracie, Jen, just want to give you an opportunity to break in. I know I've been talking a lot.
Well, I had a question. You mentioned that people on the lower end of the socioeconomic scale, tend to gravitate toward religion, and I think that there's a lot of data that backs that up worldwide. And my perception on this is that when people feel vulnerable, they become more susceptible to superstition and magical thinking, and that the church sort of takes advantage of this. So, it's another example of churches preying on vulnerable populations. And in light of that, I wanted to ask you, with the Catholic Church and the pedophile priest scandal, have you seen any backlash against the Catholic Church within the Hispanic Secular Community? I mean, are you seeing more Hispanics reject Catholicism and become secular as a result of that?
I think there are more Hispanics kind of rejecting Catholicism, but as I said, before, the problem is not that they rejected it. The problem is that they jump from Catholicism to Pentecostal. So they go from bad to worse. So that doesn't solve anything. But going back to the Catholicism, and this is something that I've been preaching for many, many, many years. There is nothing more strange for me that knowing the number of Catholics, for example, in Los Angeles, that there are no pedophile cases reported correlated to the number of Hispanics attending those churches. Perhaps one case in 20 years, perhaps two cases in 20 years, but you are not going to tell me that the priests don't love Hispanic children. I mean, the families are not, or have not, or will not report these cases, and I think that's a huge issue. And I think once somebody learns that the child was abused, then that's when they jump to another religion. And and that again is at the lower spectrum, at the lower income scale. So again, religion thrives controlling people, and I think even now that I just hope that everybody that speaks Spanish reads the book by Andy Thompson. I've just finished translating the book, and it's Why We Believe in God. And one of the things that tell you, it's not so much, he doesn't talk about the income, but he kind of explains the need of feeling attached to something. When you don't have that in one way, you replace it with a God. And I think there is a very strong need in the Hispanic community of attachment to something. So, that's why they claim that they are so attached to the family. They claim they're so attached to God. And I think reading that book and kind of understanding the neurological process that takes to believe in God, somebody, even if it's just one person, might change their idea. So I'm just hoping that everybody that speaks Spanish and they prefer to read in Spanish, they can read that book, because I think that addresses exactly what you asked me, except that it does it in a more scientific manner, in the sense that it tells you why is it that we tend to attach ourselves to a God for a sense of security, definitely. And when you are feeling, when you left the country, when you have immigration issues, when you haven't been able to make it in the community, and when you are always under the fear that somebody's going to catch you and put you in a plane, and then you are supposed to be the provider for other people, I think that's not the most conducive way to get people to become secular or atheist or agnostic or anything like that. So I think there are underlying issues that are not conducive for the Hispanic community to come out and say, you know what, perhaps I should stop blaming or believing so much in religion and address things the way they are supposed to, in a more critically way, so I can see where is it that I'm coming from, and where is it that I need to go, and what is the process in between. And I think that's the problem that we have with many Hispanics today.
Oh, very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. So one of the things you've brought up a few times while we're talking, and it was also brought up in David's talk, is, about alternative medicine, traditional healing, psychics, and other sorts of superstition. I mean, everywhere I go, I see, in Texas, there's some big hand standing outside of a house for psychic, tarot, palmistry, whatever readings, and it usually appears to be Hispanic women doing those. So how big a problem is that in this community?
I think it's big because that is kind of like a byproduct of religion. It's believing in something supernatural. So, if God doesn't grant you that wish, perhaps if you go to palm reader, whatever, she will grant it for you. So I think that's a big issue as well. And again, it's difficult to convince people that doesn't work, but I think little by little, men are more critical about those activities today than women. Women are still assuming that, oh well, that's great. That's the way that's the way the wishes are granted. But in some countries more than others, when you go to the Caribbean countries, because of the African influence, you are going to see a lot of these santeros and, palm readers, herbs, and if I give you this, you will cure everything. So it is a problem. I definitely think it's a problem. You see them everywhere, and they're making a lot of money. A lot of money.
Yeah. So, we just now got on this. So what do you see as the major issues for Latina women specifically?
Oh, God.
Okay, we had some little bit of technical issues. Lorena, you were talking about some issues of Latina women specifically. So if you can just try to go back. Thanks.
Okay, sure. What I was mentioning is that Latino women are still very much lagging behind Latino men, and it's because of the very prevalent machismo in some families. Some families more than others, and I think that's also related to education, but not exclusively to education, because I've seen or I've learned about a lot of women that are very well educated that are hit by the husband and they're abused by the husband, and it's like they look the other way and they keep on going, and they've been married for 10 or 20 years. And, there is this, in my opinion, there's still this perception that women are there to reproduce, and as I said before, Latinos are not in danger of extinction, but they are reproducing like, there is no tomorrow. And I think that's also contributing to some of the issues, because when you are so concerned in trying to make it financially because you have so many kids, that has unintended consequences.
Yeah, I mean, I see reproductive rights as being, very important. Yeah, I mean, the Catholic Church, telling you not to use birth control. Some of these other sects, even Protestants, are telling people. And, I see, lots of teen pregnancy in that community, and it's just pretty bad.
Yes, it's absolutely bad. I mean, the rate in some areas, the graduation rate, or the dropout rate in high school is almost 50%. So that means that by age 16, many Latino girls are mothers. And I don't care, at 16 years old, I don't care how mature you are, you definitely cannot perform as a parent if you don't even have a high school diploma.
Yeah, and education is got to be the way out of this.
Yeah, that's why we try to. That's why we try to teach these younger students to think critically, because it is not okay to get pregnant at 16. It doesn't matter if your mother is going to be there for you or not. It doesn't matter if your aunt is going to be there for you or not. It doesn't matter. Being pregnant at 16 years old is not a good thing. So, that's another message that needs to be repeated over and over and over and over again. And I think even if we repeat it over and over again, we're still going to be short of the times that we need to say it. So that's a very huge problem in the Latino community. I mean, there is statistics show that right now, in some areas, especially on the East Coast, women are getting more educated. But there is, those numbers, in my opinion, and I'm talking about opinion here. I don't have the evidence to prove my case, but those numbers can be a little bit deceiving, because even though they go to college and get educated, then they don't work and stay home raising kids. So what difference does that make? If you're going to get educated and you're going to stay. And I'm not putting anybody down because you choose to stay home and have kids. But my opinion is that these are the options for any woman, not just Latino woman. One kid, more than one kid, or zero kid. Zero is an option, and nobody should put women down because women choose to have no kids. And in the Latino community, if you talk about having no kids, everybody's dying. I mean, like, oh, when are you going to bring my little, my granddaughter? What about the little brother or sister for your little brother or daughter that you already have? So zero is an option. In my book, it's an option, and I preach that. If I don't preach anything, that's one thing that I preach. Zero is an option. It is up to each woman to decide how many, based on their finances, based on their education. I don't care on what. However, the options are one, more than one, or zero. There's nothing wrong with zero.
Definitely. Absolutely. And yeah, it does seem like, that community, I see women at the store all the time, 4, 5, 6 kids sometimes, and they look to be under 35 or 40. They've already had that many.
Absolutely. And then the older kid becomes the mother, So that kid doesn't get educated either because she's babysitting her younger siblings. So it's a circle. It's a vicious circle.
Yeah. Well, Tracie, Jen, anything you want to break in with?
I was just curious. I've heard some in the news about the Catholic Church, especially being really pro-immigration, and I wonder if that has any kind of an allure especially in the U.S., where we had, such a huge influential party that was so anti-immigration?
I think any religion that offers that as a incentive can be hugely successful because, we know how difficult it is to get legal status in this country now. So if God is telling you that by you going and praying once a week or a couple of times a week or every day, you get your green card, or if I was an illegal immigrant, I think I would be guilty of going there too.
I do think, though, that, haven't the churches taken kind of an active role in promoting a more positive view of immigration?
Well, I know that churches, what they do is they offer English classes as a way of recruiting, as a recruiting tool. I don't know. I don't know about a more positive role. No, I'm not familiar with that, to tell you the truth. I never seen a church putting a positive twist to immigration. What I've seen them do is like, let me see what I can do so I can recruit a few more souls. That's the kind of thing that I see. But ultimately, churches, as any other organization, they have to increase their membership, and they will do whatever they need to do to increase their membership. And if by saying a few nice words about immigration or by pretending that they are helping people to legalize their immigration status, I'm sure they would do it in a minute.
Yeah, I think I have heard, not necessarily about the Catholic Church officially, but that there are some priests and some churches who do take, who
like a more
actively push legislation.
Yeah,
active push for legislation. Some priests. I don't think it's an official Catholic Church thing.
That's probably so, and I think that's one of the reasons, excuse me, in my opinion, is that many Catholic priests are atheists, so they probably try to do something more fulfilling with their lives than living in a 24/7, 365 days kind of lie.
I actually had a question, and I almost feel bad asking it, because after you did all that talking about how you don't want to divide, the countries where we get the Hispanic, larger homogenous group from, I feel like I have an opportunity to ask you this, and maybe you'll have some insight because of the work that you do with the larger community. But boy, we get a really disproportionate number of letters from Brazil. And I'm just curious if there's any reason why that would be the case.
From Brazil?
Yeah, I have no idea why we get so many letters from Brazil.
That's strange. Well,
okay, well, at least it's not just me. I was like, I could never figure out. I was like, what's going on in Brazil?
Yeah, well, Brazil is a very particular country because some Brazilians see themselves as Latinos, and some other Brazilians see themselves as Brazilians and don't tell them Latinos. So I would be kind of surprised that they would try to get. But I think in a way, perhaps they are trying to. The letters that you get, are they in reference to immigration or
No, they're
or
just
what?
very positive. Usually, they're very positive letters from atheists who have seen the show and they really like it.
Oh, well. I think Brazilians are very joyous individuals, so maybe that they're making their voices heard. But I just don't. I can't come up with a reason why you get more letters from them.
Maybe.
Is it just me or Matt? Jen. I'm looking at Matt's picture. Jen and Beth. Do you notice that we seem to get mail from Brazil?
I have noticed that, and I'm not sure. I think somebody may have mentioned in one of them that somebody has subtitled in Portuguese.
Oh, well, that could be.
Yeah, I think that's the case, that some of our videos have been subtitled in Portuguese.
Which they need to be subtitled in Spanish, more of
Absolutely.
them.
Absolutely. Yeah. But, there are a few things that are going to be coming out in the near future. I think the Richard Dawkins Foundation is working on a Spanish website. And I think, of course, our website, hafree.org, is always trying to keep everyone informed. And we ask everybody to participate. I mean, it doesn't have to be a letter in Spanish. We can translate it. We can do Spanglish. It doesn't really matter, but we just want to try to make sure that we reach out to those people that do want to be involved and do want to come out, because we need them.
Yeah.
I was going to also mention, I listened to your interview on Free Thought Radio, and you did mention that your group is a 501c3. So I just kind of want to make sure that we mention that, but while you're on the show, that this is a 501c3, so it's tax-deductible donations. And also, you mentioned that even though the group is titled as a Hispanic group, that anybody's welcome to join.
Absolutely, anybody's welcome to join, and we send them, if anybody makes a donation, we send them a letter at the end of the year so they can deduct it from their taxes. And like any other organization, we're always looking for donations. So please, if you're out there and you don't know what to do with your millions, we're here to take them.
Yes.
That's excellent.
For sure.
And you will get a tax deduction.
Another thing, one of the things that you brought up on the other interview that was interesting to me was that you mentioned that you often get correspondence from kids who are asking for guidance on how to deal with their religious families. And that's definitely an issue that we get very often. So I just thought that was interesting that you're also getting that.
Oh, and not just kids. When I say kids, I'm talking like up to 21 years old. We were at the Reason for Rally in Washington, D.C., and we had tons of young kids stop by and say, how can I tell my mom that, I'm not Catholic as she is? I've tried to tell her in these many ways, and she just won't accept it, won't even acknowledge that I'm saying that, or just pretend that I'm not saying it. And again, I think that's why offering that support is so important, and having these small groups all over the country where these kids can come and perhaps even bring their parents, because there is this misconception that atheists do all this kind of weird stuff, especially in the Latin community. Perhaps, I don't know what we can call weird, but I've never been to an atheist meeting where we do weird things. So even if we get a parent that is audacious enough and decides to take the risk of going to this weird meeting, we'll show them that we do like everyone else. We have a good time, we talk, and there's nothing strange about it.
Yeah, we're disappointingly normal.
Yes, absolutely. But, until they see it, they won't believe it. Because I have been in some instances where I've said, you can come to our meetup group. We'll make sure that we have the young kids' blood for you to drink, to the point that I have to say, I'm joking, because some people probably think that that's what we do.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, yeah, one thing that seems to be for everybody, not just Hispanics, not just white people, black people, any kind of people, is the atheist movement needs more community, I think.
Yes. We need a support network where, if you feel rejected or ostracized by somebody, you know that you can count on these peers to not to hold you, but at least to keep you going. And I think that's what we're lacking right now. I think that's what a lot of churches provide religious people, and that's why they are so successful, because there is many churches that all they do is social stuff. And so I think that's what is so important, to provide some sort of network, whether that be in a social area or in a more formal way. It doesn't matter, but I think if you have more than two atheists, you should be able to get together and have somebody say, just come over. We're getting together to have a glass of wine and come and enjoy the evening with us. And I think that a lot of time might mean a lot to somebody.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we are over an hour. So is there anything, Jen, Tracie, you want to ask? Is there anything specific you wanted to make sure to get to, Lorena?
Okay.
Jen, Tracie, you good?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. Before we sign off, though, I just wanted to mention the fact that the National Association for the Research and Therapy of Homosexuality, NARTH, they just lost their tax-exempt status.
Oh, goody.
What's the story behind that?
NARTH is one of the most virulently anti-gay reparative therapy promoting type organizations out there.
Oh, okay. Well, see, the way they name these things, you can't tell from the name.
I know. Yeah, they think that you can cure the gay. And so they have been promoting these really harmful reparative therapies out there. And so they just lost their tax-exempt status. Sadly, it's not because someone recognized that they are primarily a religious organization hiding behind this, therapy thing, and that they're abusing this. It was just that they forgot to file their Form 990 that every tax-exempt organization has to do. They kind of forgot it for the last 3 years. So the IRS revoked their tax-exempt status. But it's good news anyway.
But, I have to say this, every time that I think that I've heard everything, I hear something that leaves me speechless. An anti-gay, I just, a therapy group, I mean, how weird is this? I mean, anyway.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, the idea that you could cure the gay. Or that you need to cure the gay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like that this is even a problem. I talked about this with another group recently, the idea of what motivates people. It's like of all the horrible things that go on every day on the planet, they've devoted themselves exclusively to like combating homosexuality.
Yeah.
Like that's the horror that they're out to undo.
Yeah.
And it was ironic. I think it was us talking about it the last GB maybe, because me and Beth, I was showing, well, there was an article that I had talked about that was linking to like really bad violence against gay bloggers in the Middle East. And the images in the article were horrible. Some of them had been killed. Some of them were stabbed multiple times. It was really awful. And I'm like, and here I am talking about this, and this is what's motivating me. And then, this person over here, I just so happened they were motivated by like some art exhibit, had them protesting. And I'm like, you're protesting an art exhibit, right? And here's these people being murdered and beaten and stabbed for believing something different. And that doesn't motivate you. What motivates you is like a photo in this art exhibit that you have to pay to go see. Like that's freaking you out. And it's the same thing with the gay stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. And you look at it and you're like, wow, so of all the hideous things that you could choose to try to improve on the planet, you pick something completely innocuous and try to, quote, fix it. Like, what is the resource lost there should be enough to get people off their ass to, like, say, look, we need to really do something about religion, because people are wasting this time and resource on crap that doesn't matter, instead of getting out and really making something better.
Well, and not only that, but it's not like the percentages of gay people, it's not like homosexuality is spreading. The percentages are stable. They've been stable for like thousands of years. You can't catch it. It's not like, a virus or something. I mean,
I keep looking for the recruiters.
I know. Yeah.
You know what? I just have to say this, and I know this might not be, appropriate, but I can't help it. I mean, with what you guys are talking, I'm just I'm just imagining that one day somebody's going to tell me, there is a Hispanic rehab organization where you can go in as a Hispanic and you come out as something else. And that would be, just what I'm missing that I haven't heard yet.
Yeah. Well, actually, somebody made like a joke. I think it was some kind of a joke meme billboard or something like that, and it was like it was like fixing people that were like Asian or something like that, and it was like a racist kind of thing where they were saying they can fix you if you're like not white and you're Asian, and they had a photo of somebody like clearly and but it was a play, like a joke on the cure for homosexuality, and that meme made the rounds, and it was amazing how many people thought it was real, that like posted and said, "What a hideous racist thing! Like I can't believe this group." And it's like it's a joke. It's meant to show how stupid the anti-gay thing is. But yeah, when you were saying the Hispanic, the un-Hispanic therapy or whatever, someone did that with a race. In order to mock it.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I guess you go in eating tacos and you come out eating sweet and sour chicken or something. I don't know. It's just, I mean, it's funny. I mean, I can't help it. It's just funny.
Chicken fried steak.
Except I like my chicken fried steak with green chili sauce on it.
Yeah.
The thing is, you just need a little bit of therapy there, Beth.
Yeah. See, eating these tacos, it's just like, all it does is normalize Hispanic, You just can't let this go.
Okay, yeah. Soon everyone's going to start becoming Hispanic if we don't.
I know. Next thing you know, I'll be speaking Spanish.
Well, you might need some rehab if that happens to you.
I know.
We don't want to have more sick people. We have the sick gays, we have the sick Hispanic, sick lesbians, sick Asians. Everybody's sick. So
except for the Christians, they've got it down. They're normal and healthy and everything's well.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, well, I think we've gone off the deep end here. We're good. All right. Well, thank you, Lorena. And everybody, go join Half Free and give them all your millions of dollars. And we are done. This is Beth signing out.
This is Jen. Good night.
This is Tracie saying I'm going to go have a taco.
And this is Lorena. I'm going to Hispanic rehab in a few minutes.
All right. Bye.